Are you starting a new D&D campaign and are having trouble coming up with a new character? Did your player character reach an untimely demise and you need to make a new character that you're excited for? Today I want to talk about 4 tips that I have used for creating a character. Hang in there with me a little bit today because I am feeling a little under the weather, so I might sound a little nasally and stuff. So the first tip, and probably the one that I use the most, find a class or subclass that you have always wanted to play as. So normally each character I try to find either a class or a subclass that I've been curious about but haven't had the chance to play as. Then I start asking questions. So we are going to do this together using a character that I've played in the past. So why did the character decide to pursue this class? This is a paladin that was raised in a village that had a lot of paladins. So he decided to train with the paladins to protect the village. What twist can I put on this class? So this is a dwarf that is a paladin of the gnome god. He was raised by gnomes in this village and was the strongest paladin because he was the largest paladin. What does the character believe in? So this dwarf believes in protecting the little guys, sometimes in a literal way. I mean, he was raised by gnomes. He protected the gnomes from things like kobolds and dragons. He never really fought a dragon, but he was willing to protect the village from a dragon. And just wanted to make sure he could protect people smaller than him and people weaker than him. What motivates the character to adventure? So this is a dwarf that grew up in a village of gnomes and hasn't really known much else. So the main purpose of him adventuring is that his father figure told him that he should get out there and learn more about the world. What was the upbringing like? So like I said, he was raised by gnomes, so unlike a lot of dwarves, he is very whimsical, happy, he jokes, he's very devout to the god of gnomes called Glittergold. And I loved that. What race would work best for this? So like picking the paladin, I picked the dwarf because they are a stronger race and they're more resilient. So like dwarves have resilience to poison and stuff like that. And I thought it worked just really well with the paladin. I have picked races that don't work well with a class before. So like I've picked a gnome for a bard, and technically gnomes don't get like charisma modifier bonuses and stuff like that. So ideally, it wasn't the right race. A tiefling or something would have technically been a better choice. Do you want to play stereotypical race for the class or take it in a different direction? Like I said, I have done this before where I've taken a race that doesn't normally slot into that class as well and used it for the class. And I mean, in a way I did this with Brahmis, the paladin that I'm talking about, because he is a good race for paladin. He's not the stereotypical race for a gnome paladin. And why would they work with the party? So Brahmis is a very friendly guy. He just likes people. And he's working with the party because he finds them interesting and wants to adventure as much as possible. And the best way to adventure is with a group of people. There might be other reasons that your characters are working with the party. I played an undead, like a reborn, that was working with the party because he wanted to uncover more stuff about his backstory. So he didn't really remember his life before his death. Now the second tip is to find a personality you've always wanted to roleplay as. Do you want to be a snobby rich kid? Maybe you could be an elf with some innate magic, or some wizard. Training could work there. You feel a little bit snobbier, a little more accomplished than the rest of your party because you went to like a wizard academy. Do you want to be a charismatic traveler? An attractive bard could be a good option for this. Is your character gruff and unwavering? You could be a martial class, so like a fighter or a barbarian. Would your character shop exclusively at Hot Topic and listen to sad music all day? You should probably pick like a rogue or a warlock. You could pick other classes for that, but those are the common like edgy classes that people play as. I think this tip, it can be a lot of fun because sometimes you just want to play an archetype that is different than how you are in real life. And I think that can make for some great role-playing situations and just a really fun character overall. If your character is too similar to how you are in real life, I think it can get a little stale because you're supposed to be playing make-believe. Let's be honest, that's what D&D is. And playing yourself is not playing make-believe, you know? So my third tip is to make your character related to the party in some way. Maybe you have a sibling in your backstory that is part of the party, or like a cousin or a childhood friend. Maybe the bard in the party is an ex-lover of yours. You dated for a while, maybe it was a fling. Maybe you two were married at one point. I think Critical Role's Calamity did something where one of the characters had divorced the other character. Did the cleric save your life in their temple many years ago? Maybe you're playing a barbarian or a fighter that kind of strayed away from their group or got badly injured, and the cleric saved you that day. And since then, you have been following the cleric to protect them. Did you fight in the army alongside a character's dad and barely make it out alive, and the dad didn't? Maybe in that dad's final moments, they asked you to help look over their kid. Having a connected backstory can be fun, but you just need to make sure the other character is fine with it as well. At one point, I was going to play in like a sci-fi campaign with my good friend Joe that never really came to fruition. It was going to be over the internet, which I had never done before, like a Discord call. I think it was actually going to be over War 20 maybe. I hope that I'm right there. But we were both going to play plasmoids that were brothers. And one of us was going to be in like a mech suit and a fighter. So it's like a plasmoid. I think it might have been an artificer, but like one of us was going to be in a mech suit. The other one was just going to be a rogue. And we were brothers with two very different personalities. But the point of us traveling together is that we wanted to protect each other. And I think that can make for great storylines, and maybe very tragic ones. Being related to somebody in the party means that if something happens to that other character, you have to decide how your player character takes that. So, I love this tip. I really want to do this in a campaign. Sadly, I have not been a player in a while. The last couple of things I've done is as a DM. The next thing I'm going to do is as a DM. So it is tough for me to be able to play this kind of stuff out. My fourth and final tip is to model your character off a character from popular media that you admire. It could be Legolas from Lord of the Rings. You could be a ranger or a fighter playing Legolas. Maybe it's Jaskier from The Witcher, my favorite Witcher character, as a bard, obviously. You could play Spider-Man. It is tough because there's not a lot of like stuff in D&D that can make you a good Spider-Man, but maybe you role play as Spider-Man and you're like a monk. You could base your character off of Merlin from the Arthurian legends, the like stereotypical wizard, the incredibly powerful stereotypical wizard, but still stereotypical nonetheless. Or it could be any other character that you think could work in your campaign setting. I played a bard, surprise, surprise, that used to be a magician. And before he joined the campaign, he was part of a group of thieves that all had calling cards. And in this situation, it was literal. They each had a playing card. So I think his was the Ace of Spades. Anytime he stole something, alone or with the group, he would leave an Ace of Spades at the scene. If they were in a group, they would each leave an ace card. So like there was an Ace of Clubs, Ace of Diamonds, and Ace of Hearts. And I obviously stole that from Now You See Me. I'm going to be honest, that was my biggest inspiration. I was thinking of a bard that wasn't a stereotypical bard. He wasn't a musician or a theater kid. He wasn't. A theater kid might be a little tough, but he wasn't like in play productions. He was just a magician, and magicians don't make sense in D&D. Um, there's magic in D&D, so he was pretty much just an expert at sleight of hand. I think this guy was a bard. This might have been a thief. A thief would have, or like a not a thief, like a rogue would have made more sense here. But it's tough for me to tell because I was playing two characters at the same time that were very similar characters. So I'm assuming this was the arcane trickster rogue. But I honestly can't tell you. Probably the arcane trickster rogue. The point is, I took him from Now You See Me. And I think it's totally fine to base your characters off of other characters. I don't think I would ever play like fully that character. So I'm not going to come to a campaign with Peter Parker. You know, I would just take some of his mannerisms. Maybe be a little naughty, a little quippy. So say like one-liners to the enemies while you're fighting them and stuff like that. I think that would be really fun to roleplay as. So those are my 4 tips for creating a character. If there's anything else that you guys use during your character creation process, please leave a comment. I love making characters. I have like 7 characters written for campaigns that I will probably never get to play as because, like I said, I normally DM, and they will probably eventually become NPCs in a D&D campaign. So I love making them. I just don't get to play them very often. If there are any ideas that you got from this video, also leave a comment. I love hearing about other people's characters. And other than that, guys, until next time, I hope you're having an incredible day. Peace.